American supplies of war, both material goods and economic aid, had supported the South since the division of the country in 1954. In providing this flow of goods, South Vietnam was hard put to ingest the immense flow of the material support given by the U.S. Ships would queue for weeks in the seaways of Vietnam, waiting to disgorge their cornucopia of war. The first men had been added to these exports of war in 1960. These were the advisors and logistic support troops. In scenes reminiscent of World War II, U.S. troops crowded onto ships for the journey across the Pacific, a voyage that would last nearly 3 weeks. With the baggage of history, of hindsight, of all that Vietnam has come to mean, it's difficult to recall and realize the spirit of confidence and optimism in which those soldiers were sent. The early black and white images of disciplined and clean-cut troops seem at odds with the Vietnam myth of the rock and roll war, of disaffected, mutinous, and demoralized Americans. These are scenes of the early 1960s, yet the casual observer could place them in 1945. The contrast with that myth, with the legend of Vietnam, is a measure of the way in which the coming and expanding war was to affect American society at the very deepest of levels. The America of 1963 was the America that had grown up in the confidence and security of the Eisenhower years. It was the America that believed in the vision of John F. Kennedy. The soldiers crowding the decks of these ships had unshakable confidence in America as the strongest country on earth, where anything was possible. It was an America aggressively convinced of the rightness of its fight to preserve freedom against the spread of an inherently evil communism. The nature of American support changed after 1964. In an incident shrouded in conspiracy theory and rumor, American warships were reported as fired upon by the North Vietnamese. The outrage this incident provoked gave political impetus to the deployment of combat forces. In reaction to this provocation, United States soldiers and Marines were deployed no longer just to advise and train, but to fight as combatants directly against the Viet Cong.
Hi, I'm Army Specialist Zach Johnson, and this is the Psychedelic Music Show on the big AFVN, Channel 54, Saigon.
This was a large and powerful body of armed men drawn from a society that was not used to defeat. It was an army that held its enemy in a contemptuous disregard as a guerrilla army, as a band of poorly equipped irregular soldiers. The American soldier of the early 1960s would have had no doubt as to their duty to their country. The aims and beliefs of America would have been their aims and beliefs. They would have known with a certainty that Vietnam was a country that needed to be saved. The Army went into action with confident self-belief that it was entering a war where the might of the most powerful economic and military power in the world was pitted against a guerrilla army, where failure was not a possibility. The ranks of armed men with strange habits, language, and uniform who were to flood into South Vietnam in increasing numbers would have appeared to the Vietnamese people as another foreign army in a long succession of foreign armies. In the big picture of Vietnam's history, the army of the Emperor of China, the Emperor of Japan, the French president, and the American president all merged as one. This new army brought to its South Vietnamese ally foreign thinking and foreign ways. America aimed to win this war on its terms, with its weapons. The enemy was to approach the conflict in a deeply different way. The confrontation was not just to be a test of American strength.